All right, so it's 7 o'clock on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, and I'll call the meeting to order. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none. And as we all know, we're meeting on Tuesday, and I hope that we all had a great Easter weekend spent with family and friends. And I also, because it's my wife's birthday, I want to wish her a happy birthday. I did a little bit of a dine and dash. I think she's still enjoying the birthday cake with my daughter, Isla. So if they're watching, hello. Before we get into the minutes of the previous meeting, I'm just going to ask Coulter if you just push that button there. We'll rotate it around, see who's in the room. We got Morgan, our CAO, Councillor Brody, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, Johnny, our treasurer, and then Coulter Cahill, our public works manager. All right. So then I think you just, unless you want it on you, then that's fine. Okay. So we have the minutes of the previous meeting, and those are from April 4th, 2022. We have a mover and seconder for those. Okay, Councillor Brody and Councillor Clark. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we will jump right into our committee of adjustment. And before we do that, I'll just say that the purpose of the following public hearings for the Committee of Adjustment and the public meeting are to give the Committee of Adjustment and Council, as well as the general public, an opportunity to hear all interested persons or parties with respect to the applications being heard this evening. And the public is advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If a person or public body files an appeal of decision made this evening to the Ontario Land Tribunal without having made a written submission to the committee or the council, the tribunal may dismiss the appeal. And if you wish to be notified of the decision in writing, please submit a written request to the clerk's office. All right, so the first, we have to have the motion, which is that council convene as the Committee of Adjustment for the purpose of hearing applications minor variance A01-2022 at 7:02. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? And that is carried. So the first one here, I think we have the applicants which are joining us. Are you able to hear us and possibly see us?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and can you state your name, please?
Florian and Elizabeth Locker.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm going to hand it over to Aaron Besh, our planner, to go through the report. And then after that, you can, if you have any questions or comments, that's the time to ask them.
Thank you.
Okay, Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. Just one moment here. All right, so I brought up the location map on my screen here. So the first application before council this evening is for 29384 Newell Road. The purpose of the application is to seek relief from section 5.1.2 of the township's zoning bylaw as it relates to locating an accessory building in the front yard of an agricultural building or property rather. More specifically, the owner is proposing to build a 223 square meter shed with a front yard setback of 15 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw prohibits accessory buildings from locating closer to the front property line than the main dwelling, which is set back approximately 33 meters from the front property line. The owners have advised that they are requesting the location of the structure to be in the front yard to make use of the existing driveway and to prevent the removal of lands from agricultural production. The subject lands are approximately 20.5 hectares in size, contains a single detached dwelling on private services, a garden, shed, pool, and gazebo. An extension of the Lewis Drain transects the property and is regulated by the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority, and the remainder of the lands are in agricultural production. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The Adelaide Metcalfe Drainage Superintendent advised of no concerns regarding the application, and no comments from the public have been received.
Oh, Aaron, you're muted if you're.
Sorry about that. I evaluated the application based on the 4 tests of minor variance, and I'm satisfied that the application meets the 4 tests. So my recommendation this evening is approval. subject to the condition that the shed be located a minimum of 15 meters from the front lot line to the satisfaction of the township. Thank you.
There we go. That was the cue I was looking for. All right. Do you have any additional questions or comments from the applicant?
No, not really.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? Okay, seeing none. So it seems pretty straightforward. So the recommendation is to have the minor variance granted. I think I just saw Deputy Mayor Hendrick's hand up. Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. All right, you're all set.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we need to have a motion that council adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 7:06. Okay, Councillor Brody, Councillor Clark, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and then we'll jump into our public meeting. And that is, we need a motion then to convene into a public meeting to hear application for zoning bylaw amendment, temporary use Z03 2022 at 7:07. Okay, Councillor Brody and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, and it looks like we have Kelly Richardson with us. Are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And I'll hand it over to Aaron Besh, our planner, to go through the application. Then if you have any questions or comments following that, that's the time to ask before council has any questions or comments, and then our decision.
Okay.
Okay, Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So the rezoning application before committee council this evening is for 5958 Walker's Drive. The purpose of this application is to allow the owner to continue to live in the existing dwelling while a second dwelling is being built, whereas the zoning bylaw would normally only permit one dwelling to be located on the subject land. The applicant is also required to enter into a temporary use agreement with the township and submit a deposit of $10,000 security to ensure the removal of the first dwelling upon completion of the second. So the temporary use zoning bylaw will expire in 2 years or upon the occupancy of the new dwelling, whichever occurs first. The deposit would then be returned to the applicant at that time. So we are looking for a temporary use zoning of general agriculture A with the temporary use provision of T-12. The Planning Act allows the township to authorize temporary uses of lands for purposes such as this. And the township's official plan also authorizes council to pass temporary use bylaws to permit these second dwellings on condition that adequate private services are provided and that they're required to enter into the agreement with the township. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the zoning or as of the Planning Act. The chief building official provided several requirements, including the $10,000 deposit. He put a stipulation that the existing dwelling will need to be removed 90 days from occupancy of the new dwelling and will permit the second dwelling. The permit for the second dwelling will be a conditional permit, which requires the agreement and security. And if the proposed plan requires a new septic system, the existing septic will need to remain in place and operational throughout the living in the existing dwelling, and abandonment of the septic will be required at the time of removal of the dwelling to the satisfaction of the chief building official. No comments or concerns have been received by the public. So my recommendation this evening is for approval of zoning bylaw Z03 2022. And I also recommend the first, second, and third reading be completed as the applicants have already provided the security deposit and the temporary use agreement has been prepared for the township's agreement. I have also drafted a bylaw for council's consideration this evening.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Kelly, do you have anything you'd like to add at all?
Nope, not at this point.
Okay. Okay, is there any questions or comments from council? Okay, Doesn't look like it. So we have the recommendation in front of us for approval. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Brody, Councillor Clark. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you so much, Kelly, for attending.
Yay, thank you.
All right, so we need to have a motion to adjourn the public meeting at 7:10 and reconvene in our regular council meeting. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Clark, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, so the next section on our agenda is presentations. We have Marianne Love from ML Consulting here, and she's going to be going through a presentation for the council remuneration for 2023. Oh, but before that, I'm going to throw it over to Morgan. Sorry.
Sorry, Marianne, just to jump in before you go through your presentation there. I just wanted to mention that council remuneration is always a tough topic for any council. During our organizational review in 2020, we uncovered that there was various compensation programs in use by the township, all of which really needed a review and consideration for potential change. We did go through the staff compensation review and implementation in 2020. We will be working through the volunteer fire service compensation review this year. And here we're going to talk about council remuneration. This has been, oh, sorry, I did want to also mention that in speaking with council really wanted to look at council remuneration to be implemented for the following term of council, being, well, I guess we'll start January 1st, 2023. We'll have a little bit of overlap near the end of the year, but it's good budgeting practice for our treasurer there. This has really been a staff-led exercise that leveraged the same compensation review process that we use for our staff compensation program. I did also want to mention that although the township is a fairly small township in population, we still have the same responsibilities and mandated core services as medium or larger municipalities. I do have to apologize to council as this is a bit of a walk-on presentation because I was at the Good Roads Conference last week. I fell ill later in the week and wasn't able to provide Marianne and Mike Barnier my comments on the presentation, so we were able to finalize that this evening. Finally, we didn't try to rewrite the wheel. We really ended up, our council compensation program did look good. I didn't get a lot of feedback about adding or removing any benefits or other programs. So really, we ended up looking at our base pay for council remuneration. And if council approves the program in principle this evening, then what we'll do is we'll bring a bylaw for council's consideration potential approval at the May 2nd council meeting. So Marianne, I guess over to you.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much, Morgan. And good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all again, and nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me back. So I think, Mike, do you have the presentation? And I think he's going to flip the slides for me, and I'm just going to walk through it. And Mr. Mayor, I'm more than happy to take questions as we go through, right? You can hold them to the end. I'll just follow your lead.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to take you, and I appreciate this is a walk on. So I'm going to go through each slide, and I'm going to go through everything on the slide. So we're all on the same page together. Okay. So this slide is really just talking about the background. So where we've started. So the compensation for elected officials at the township was reviewed back in 2019, and it was reviewed due to the removal of the 1/3 income tax exemption. And that was similar to many other municipalities. They were reviewing their remuneration bylaws in and around the same time. Now, council approved compensation rates and pay practice updates for the mayor, including some minor adjustments to the deputy mayor and council in light of the removal of the exemption. So effective January 1, 2019, the mayor's salary was adjusted to $16,000. The deputy mayor's salary was adjusted to $10,200, and the councillor's salary was adjusted to $8,500. Now, this base rate, as I referenced, throughout the presentation, I referenced these salary amounts as basically base rate pay. It compensates for duly called meetings of council, interactions with the public by phone, email, or in person, preparatory work for meetings, site visits, informal or formal meetings with staff, ceremonial functions, attendance at grand openings, attendance and or presentations at public relations events, local events, voluntary training sessions, presentations. This is found in the bylaw. So I've just lifted these words from the bylaw. The salary is adjusted annually by the cost of living adjustment that's provided to the employee's salary grid. There are per diem rates provided to members of council. The amount of the per diem rate is $150 per diem, and that's for the attendance at full-day workshops and mandatory training. Members of council receiving less than a $150 meeting pay from outside boards or committees that they're required to sit on will receive a top-up by the township up to that $150 rate. Technology, or council has provided technology, and it's been traditionally iPads. The monthly line charges are covered for the mayor's cell phone. Kilometerage is paid at the township's current rate, and that is 61 cents for the first 5,000 kilometers, moving to 55 cents per kilometer thereafter. And that's for travel to workshops and conferences. And this is a recent change per CAO mileage report that was dated February 22nd of this year. Travel, meal, and accommodation expenses are reimbursed for conferences, training, and workshops. There's no participation in a group benefits plan, in OMERS, or in any employee assistance programs. So that basically sort of encapsulates our current state. By way of overview, the councillor pay rates have been adjusted annually as referenced on that previous slide in accordance with bylaw 43 of 2019. Therefore, the 2022 base rates for the mayor, that would be $16,813. The deputy mayor base pay rate is $10,718, and the councillor $8,932. I was retained, as Morgan has said, to review the comparator base pay data, prepare a market analysis for elected official positions, and provide observations relating to pay practice. I was requested to use the same compensation review process as the staff program that was completed in 2020. And just as an aside, that's not unusual. It's many times councils will go out to sort of compare their base pay rates to the same within the same comparator group used for employee pay reviews as well. The 2022 base pay compensation for elected official positions is below the 50th percentile of the comparator groups identified. The comparator group is representative, and it includes municipality used in the employee compensation review. The 50th percentile target that was identified from the employee group, I think, is a reasonable pay target for the elected official base pay. The other elements of compensation, being per diem payments, technology line charges, travel and meal expense, are generally competitive. The method of establishing annual adjustments for elected official base pay aligns with best practice in the sector, being annual increases. And what that does is it precludes then big swing adjustments once a term of council. It's a nice gradual and conservative adjustment that's reflective of cost of living. I'm also recommending then periodic review of council compensation once during a term of council. As I said earlier, that's becoming a prevailing practice in the sector. So now I'm going to just sort of drill down on some of the key elements of the review. As Morgan was saying, the focus of this is really to take a look at the base pay, and I conducted a custom survey using 8 comparator municipal organizations. The comparator group was selected having regard to relevant scope and criteria. And for those of you that remember, I went through the same criteria selection exercise when we were doing the employee compensation review. We looked at historic comparators, geographic locations, similar service alignment or like services, and the size was also another indicator. Our comparator group includes Dutton Dunwich, Zora, Southwold, Plimpton, Wyoming, Thames Center, Lucan Biddulph, Southwest Middlesex, and North Middlesex. These were the comparators used for the employee compensation review. Zora East Tavistock was also included in that review. However, the comparative information was not provided for this review, so therefore I was not able to include it. Now, I just want to sort of step back for a minute and just kind of reflect on when we started this review. We started it last fall. So the data was collected in 2021. We are now in 2022. The base pay for the elected officials in Adelaide Metcalfe has been adjusted by 2%. Move us into 2022. So therefore, I aged the market data or the base pay data collected from the comparators by the same amount. So we had an apples and apples comparison. Otherwise, I'd be looking at old data from the comparator group collected last year. So I wanted to make sure I was bringing it all up on all fours and looking at it in the 1 year. So we're in 2022 with our adjustments had, so I needed to make the appropriate adjustment to the comparator data. So this is a listing of our municipal comparators. You can see them listed on the far left, the county in which they're situate, and one of the size metrics happens to be population, and now we have 2021 Stats Canada population available. You can see it on the slide here. In terms of observations, the compensation for the positions of mayor, deputy mayor, and council positions was reviewed and compared to the defined pay market using the 2022 base pay rates at Adelaide Metcalfe. The deputy mayor market rate is not relevant to 2023 compensation, as I understand that the deputy mayor position will no longer exist after the 2022 election. The base pay comparative statistics were prepared using a variety of percentile targets. The percentile target is a measure of how the positions are ranked in the comparator group highest to lowest. It's different than an average. It's a more precise measure, as a more precise metric of comparison. The 50th percentile target is the dollar rate, where 50% of the wage rates that are provided or set out in the comparator organizations are below this amount and 50% are above. So it's a ranking. And the 50th percentile is the market median rate. So the 50th percentile is also known as the median, as opposed to the average. The percentage difference, and you'll see this in the next slide, that's shown beside each percentile value is the amount by which we would need to increase our current base pay for the mayor and councillor positions, because they are showing below the market target rates. So I'll let Mike take me to the next slide. So on this slide, you can see our elected official positions, and even though the deputy mayor position is not relevant in 2023, we went out to market in 2022, so I thought I would show it here for information purposes only. So the 2022 base salary rate for Adelaide Metcalfe positions is showing, and you can see the mayor, the deputy mayor, and the councillor rates. The number of observations simply means the number of matches. So we therefore, you can see, because there's not 8 matches or observations for each position, it just happens to be that one of the municipalities does not have a deputy mayor. That's all. The market median, which is the target that we're looking for, which is the same as saying the 50th percentile, is shown in that next column. The market median rate for the mayor is 21,744. The market median rate for the deputy mayor, you can see there, the market median rate for the councillor is 14,302. All right, the percentage difference, as I said earlier, is just the amount by which we would need to increase the 2022 base rate that's showing for Adelaide Metcalfe. We need to apply that increase in order to get to that market target rate that's showing in the column beside, to the left of that percentage difference. The numbers that are showing to the right just show the market placements at higher target levels, which are not recommended. It's just for information purposes. So it would stand to reason that if the mayor position and the councillor position at Adelaide Metcalfe were low to the 50th percentile target, they're going to be even lower as compared to higher target rates in the comparator group. All right, so that's why you're seeing higher numbers and higher differentials. But for our purposes, we're going to be looking at the market median annual column, and that is the column that is the recommended target rate for these positions moving forward. So as Morgan said, we're looking at predominantly the base pay rate. So the top part of the slide is talking about that, and then I move into some other observations as I move through the rest of the slide and then on into the one following. So the market comparison for Adelaide Metcalfe elected official positions based on that 50th percentile target is as follows. Our mayor position is 29.3% below. The 2022 50th percentile target rate is 21,744. You see that on the previous slide. Now, in terms of what the actuals are in the sector, as I said, I'm going to just quote you what I saw for 21. The 21 base pay rates ranged from 9,226, that's Plimpton, Wyoming, that's what was reported, to 30,502, that's what was reported for Zora in relation to the mayor position. So that 50th percentile is that median, that midpoint. The councillor positions are 60% below the 50th percentile. The rate, as you can see from the chart previous, the 50th percentile rate is 14,302. The ranges for the councillor position in 21 were ranging from 4,612 in Plimpton, Wyoming to 18,360 in North Middlesex. The base pay percentile values showing in the market summary are conservative, and I can say that because 2 of the 8 comparators, in addition to paying base pay, also provide an additional per diem meeting rate. And that's not included in the base pay that's reported. Those individuals that provide additional per diem meeting rates are Plimpton, Wyoming, and Southwest Middlesex. That was what was reported. Plimpton, Wyoming pays different meeting per diem rates for each elected official position. Mayor 212, Deputy Mayor 193, and Councillor 173. Southwest Middlesex pays the same rate for all positions, and the per diem amount varies based on the length of the meeting. So approximately $116 per meeting if it's up to 3 hours, 1.5 multiple for 3 to 5 hour meetings, and 2 times multiple for 5 to 7 hour meetings. All right, so this is just to highlight that there are different practices amongst the comparator group. The predominant method of payment, so 6 of the 8 are predominantly paying base pay rates, but we have 2 that pay base pay rates plus. All right, so therefore the calculations that are producing the numbers you see above at 21,744 and 14,302 are conservative. There is no way of knowing what those base pay rates are for 2022, and it would depend on how the specific municipality reported on the meetings preceding. So it's very difficult to quantify. Okay. All comparators are reporting that their base pay rates are adjusted annually by a CPI value or a cost of living adjustment that's provided to the employee salary grid. There's one comparator that reports that there is an additional per diem rate for committee chairs. So that's 1 of the 8. One comparator provides a top up to $116 for outside board and committee meetings. In terms of some of the other elements of pay or ancillary pays, we might reference it. All comparators report they provide technology of some sort, whether it be iPad or laptop, and 3 of the 8 comparators provide reimbursement for cell phone line charges. So it's not the majority, but 3 of the 8 do. In terms of health benefits, 2 of the 8 comparators provide health and dental benefits. 1 pays 100% of the premiums, and 1 comparator is a 50-50 copay basis. And there's 1 comparator that provides life insurance. So therefore it's not prevalent, but there are some that do. In terms of travel reimbursement, all comparators provide kilometrage reimbursement, and the rates for kilometrage range from 49.5 cents per kilometer to 61 cents per kilometer. And 4 of the 8 comparators are using the 61 cent per kilometer rate, as does Adelaide Metcalfe. In terms of conferences and training, 5 of the 8 comparators report reimbursement for conference expenses, and 1 comparator provides a 350-day allowance. In terms of reporting of expenses, just generally, as I mentioned earlier, the format and the level of detail of reporting in the statement of council remuneration or council compensation varies amongst municipalities, and some municipalities show a greater level of detail than others. In terms of frequency of meetings, generally councils will meet twice a month, and it could vary by jurisdiction. All comparators hold special, public, and other meetings, and the number varies between the municipalities. It will certainly fluctuate within the municipality based on the mandates and the issues arising. And elected officials' workload also fluctuates based on local issues that are centric to their community and participation on various committees. 5 of the comparators are reporting that elected officials attend and participate in professional development workshops and conferences, which tends to be the norm. In terms of market trends and prevailing practice, Base pay rates for elected officials are typically adjusted annually based on an annual adjustment provided to the employee's salary or wage grid. And this allows for a year-over-year increase to align with cost of living increases, and it mitigates large adjustments identified in cyclical reviews. Compensation is generally reviewed once during the term of council, often in the third or the last year of the four-year term, and typically by surveying neighboring municipalities. Municipalities use a range of factors to help them set compensation levels for elected officials. The most common practice is to survey the compensation paid by neighboring municipalities to ensure elected official compensation is competitive, considering the fiscal capacity of the municipality. And this has been referenced in the AMCTO report that was published in March of 2018. By way of conclusion, the 50th percentile target is a reasonable pay target for base pay, having regard to the comparator group and the prevailing pay practice in the sector, and is the same target that's used for staff compensation program. The comparator group is representative based on select criteria and is aligned with the comparator group for the employee compensation review. The 2022 base pay compensation for the mayor and the councillor positions is below the 50th percentile target of the identified group. Other elements of compensation are generally competitive to the group. And the method of annual adjustment to base pay for council compensation aligns with best practice in the sector. In terms of recommendations, the following recommendations are provided for council's consideration. The first is to adjust the elected official base pay rates effective January 1st, 2023 to reflect the 50th percentile defined comparator group. And that would be the mayor at $21,744 and councillor at $14,302. And of course, because these are 2022 rates, I'm suggesting that we can continue and apply the economic adjustment provided to the 2023 salary grid. So these would be requiring adjustment to then be in effect for January 1st, 2023. The recommendation is that there be no change to ancillary compensation, such as the per diem rates, the technology, meal and travel expenses, and to continue the practice of providing annual adjustments by using the percentage adjustment provided for the employee salary grid. Also recommended to use the same municipal comparators as those used for the employee compensation reviews in coming years, and also to revise that group and the comparators for the employee group change. Also recommending that council adopt the practice of reviewing compensation in the last year of council, with any changes being effective the first year of the new term. And I think that is the end of the presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much, Marianne. And I'm going to hand it over to Morgan, just if you have anything else you'd like to add.
Yeah, just real quick before we get to any council questions or discussion, I just asked Johnny to do a quick financial analysis on the potential 2023 budget impact, and I'll just ask Johnny to speak to that.
Thank you, Morgan. To you, Mayor Smith, to council. We're doing the analysis based on the information provided. We are looking at a estimated 2023 budget impact of about $25,000 plus any additional COLA adjustments in 2023.
And the only other thing that we wanted to note is I think council gets paid monthly today. So we would like to move council to a bi-weekly pay schedule to align with the staff payroll schedule. It just creates some efficiencies for Johnny.
All right, so is there any questions or comments from members of council? Okay, Councillor Clark.
Maybe this is just assumed and I'm just looking for it in print. I thought when we reviewed this before, pardon me, there was a schedule for meals. So it wasn't just a free for all. There was actually a limit set for the meals, or maybe that's a different organization and I'm confusing it.
Through the mayor to members council, there is in the remuneration bylaw a 150 per diem as outlined in the report as well. That's to cover your meals and expenses for that day.
Okay, so it's not a separate, the people aren't submitting a separate thing for over and above. So I just want to make sure. Thanks.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments at all from members of council? Councillor Brody?
Just a comment. I've always said I'd like to see the number for the year. I don't think we need to get into how many meetings times this times that. It just causes more inefficiencies and more work to figure out, so I like the proposal of just what you're going to be getting, and that's what it is. I don't think we have any problems with attendance, or it hasn't been a problem. I don't feel since we've been here. So
Is there any other questions or comments? Councillor McKinnon or Deputy Mayor Hendricks? Okay, it doesn't look like it. So from that, I know, Morgan, you mentioned kind of a direction coming from this to prepare a bylaw for the next meeting. Is that a motion you're wanting council to have?
Yeah, I think, Mike, did you write down a motion?
Yes, basically, we're asking that council approve in principle the recommendations provided by Marion Love and consultants, and that council directs staff to prepare a remuneration bylaw for a subsequent meeting of council, most likely the next meeting of council, May 2nd.
Okay, do you have a mover and seconder for that? Okay, Councillor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. All right. Okay, thank you so much, Marianne, for all your hard work on that. It's great to see all the information in the presentation you had there, and it's the way that you present everything, during the staff review, and also with this review, it's straightforward and it's easy to understand. So it's nice to have that presentation.
Well, my pleasure, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to staff for helping me put this together in short order. So good. Have a good rest of the evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Marianne.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right. And before we get into that, the best part is that if it's approved, if we get that all approved on May 2nd, that's the first day that candidates can put their name in for the 2022 election. So everybody will know exactly what the remuneration is for council term once that gets approved. All right, so the correspondence, upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. Our next meeting is on, as I was just saying, Monday, May 2nd, and that's at 7. And then we have the Middlesex Day, so Middlesex Municipal Day for 2022. That's Thursday, May 12th. Hopefully everybody can attend that. So that's in Thorndale. Our meeting after that is on Monday, May 6th. And then we have the 2022 Middlesex County Wardens Charity Golf Tournament, and that's being held on Thursday, June 23rd. Recommended readings. The first one is from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and it's the Reopening Ontario Act. Item number 2 is from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the avian influenza, which I believe we have put some social media information out on Facebook. So that's good to have that. Item number 3 is the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, and it's regarding the Drainage Act and the Roma delegation. Is there anything you want to add to that, Morgan? Nope. Okay, action required. We have a resolution from Grey Highlands, and it's the HST rebate for new homes in Ontario. Okay, item number 5, resolution, and it's the More Homes for Everyone Act. Nope. All right, and then that last one here is the VON Middlesex Elgin VON Week. Okay, Deputy Hendricks, do you have something?
Yeah, although I strongly support VON, I think we as a township have not gotten into the habit of putting up flags. So not sure if we're ready to start.
Sounds like a policy we'd have to create. So unless somebody wants to jump up and down and direct staff about a flag policy, maybe under other business one day in the future. Okay. So we need to have a motion to receive and file items CC 1 through to 6. Okay, Councillor Brody, Councillor Clark, all those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, our staff reports. The first one here is from our treasurer, and it's the budget to actual for March 2022. Johnny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. So we're back with the monthly budget to actual reports now that we have our budget approved. New for 2022, we'll be presenting 2 types of budget actual reports. The current one in this council's agenda is the operating budget actual report. And the new report for this year will be the new capital budget actual report. So council and the community can kind of see where we're at with our capital projects this year. As you can see in the budget actual report, there hasn't been much revenue collected due to final taxes being collected in August, and spending has been minimal due to where we are in the year. We have noticed some costs increase, which we are managing to ensure we stay within budget. For example, we are reducing some quantities with some of our tenders, which Coulter will be speaking to shortly. But that's, I think, is you can attribute that to the monthly meetings we have with managers, that when we're reviewing our budgets, we can ensure we're staying on top of our spending and ensuring we're meeting our budget. Overall spending and revenue collection to date looks to be on pace with the approved budget. The recommendation is to receive the report as presented, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, is there any questions at all? Okay, seeing none, so we need to have a motion to receive that report for information. Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Clark, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, so speaking of some of those tenders that are over budget, we'll send it over to our Public Works Manager, Coulter Cahill.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. My first report tonight is on the dust suppressant tender results. The Township of Adelaide Metcalfe applies a dust suppressant to the gravel road network every spring to stabilize airborne dust particles. This process involves using strategically placed nozzles behind a loaded truck to spray a calculated amount of dust suppressant on our gravel surfaces. The dust suppressant tender was issued on Tuesday, March 15th and closed on Tuesday, March 29th. We received 3 bids. The successful bidder for the supply of dust suppressant was Pollard Highway Products Limited, based on the lowest price per unit. Attached as the results for your reference. Historically, the township has applied a quantity of 375 flake ton of dust suppressant to the gravel roads. Due to the rise in fuel prices and supply chain issues in 2022, contractors have raised their prices substantially. The price for 375 flake ton has put the township over budget by over 30%. Staff will be adjusting the amount of purchased. The amount, oh, that doesn't make sense. The amount purchased for 375 flake tons to 300 tons. We will strategically place the road stabilizing product over the gravel road network by only reducing the quantity on the roads with lower traffic counts. All gravel roads will be receiving dust suppressant and staff will monitor the outcome closely. It should be noted that the recommendation is to approve Pollard Highway Products as a successful bidder subject to finalizing insurance as per the attached contract. The final contract will be passed through by law at a subsequent meeting of council. Based on the bids received, we are over the budget amount of $95,000 by $29,837.50. By reducing the quantity to 300 flake ton, we will be over budget by $4,870 plus HST. I will open it for questions. If not, there's my recommendation.
Okay, is there any questions or comments from members of council? Okay, not. So, Councillor Brody?
I guess just a question, how, and you might not know this answer right today, but how are we on our winter maintenance budget? Are we below where we can have a little bit more here, or are we?
Actually, we are, I would say, on target for our winter maintenance budget. I wouldn't want to adjust that quite yet.
Okay, no, that was just a question.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, Councillor McKinnon.
Through you, Mayor Curtis, to Coulter. Coulter, will it be your practice to, on lower populated roads, just sort of spot check on the residential units and not do the entire road? Or are you saying you're going to apply the calcium to the entire road, but a lesser amount?
Yeah, we still are going to apply the dust suppressant to the entire road, but just have a lesser amount. I will note that in the last 3 years, we did hard surface, take a gravel surface road to hard surface. We did about 10 kilometers in the past 3 years, and we haven't adjusted our quantity of dust suppressant. So, we still have a little bit of wiggle room there, which, can add up to about 35 to 40 flake tons. So we're still going to be all right. I'm not too worried about it this year.
Okay, thanks, Coulter.
Is there any other questions at all? If not, can we have a mover and seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. And then we have the next one there, which is the maintenance crowd.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Smith. This report, as you mentioned, is maintenance gravel tender results. In order to protect and prolong the life of the township's infrastructure and provide our residents and visitors with safe and efficient means of travel on our road system, the Public Works Department undertakes preventative maintenance activities such as a gravel resurfacing annually. Each gravel road receives a maintenance lift every 3 years on average, unless a section of road requires additional resources. The maintenance gravel tender was issued on March 21st and closed on April 4th. We received 2 bids. The successful bidder for the supply and application of maintenance gravel was Mackenzie and Henderson Limited, based on the lowest price per unit. Attached are the results. Historically, the township has applied 14,000 ton of maintenance gravel to our road network annually. Due to the rise in fuel prices, as we talked about in the previous report, and supply chain issues in 2022, contractors have raised their prices substantially. The price for 14,000 ton of maintenance gravel has put the township over budget. By reducing the quantity to 13,000 ton, we will stay well within budget. The application rate is roughly 500 ton per mile. So by reducing the quantity by 1,000 ton, won't have a big impact on the 2022 maintenance program. It should be noted that the recommendation is to approve Mackenzie and Henderson Limited as the successful bidder, subject to finalizing insurance as per the attached contract. The final contract will be passed through bylaw at a subsequent meeting of council. And the financial impact, based on the bids received, we are over the budget amount of $222,000 by $12,680. By reducing the quantity to 13,000 ton, we will be under budget by $3,940. I know I will open up to questions.
Okay, is there any question at all? Seeing none, so we have the recommendation in front of us. We have a mover and seconder. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Oh, good. Okay, I got you. All those in favor. And that's carried. Okay, so I think that's the end of our staff report. So our next section of our council meeting is a closed session. And we need to have a motion that council adjourn to closed session at 7:49 pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters. And those are under section F, and that's the servicing agreement between Adelaide Metcalfe and Strathroy Caradoc. Mover and seconder, Councillor Brody, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor. And that's carried. And then after that update, we will be back for